Maybe the Black Ranger because I'm black?
No. I made you the Black Ranger because of your spirit animal.
We've heard it time and again. They cast a black actor as the Black Ranger and an Asian actress as the Yellow Ranger. Can you guys believe they do such a thing? Except we've heard it all before. Not just that people won't shut up about it, but that it's public knowledge that the casting choices were a mistake, and dare I say, not a big deal? And in one fell swoop, there goes my YouTube career. Not a big deal? Wow, way to belittle something so clearly racist. Whoa there, pal. Before anyone grabs their pitchforks, I myself am Asian, which doesn't necessarily make me an authority on the subject, but it helps to know. I show my face at the end of almost every video, but some of you need to be told outright. I still get comments from people who are shocked when they find out I'm not white.
No, I'm not even white.
Sorry to disappoint, I guess. Well, I'm bringing up the casting issue because it recently gained some attention after an episode from the HBO documentary series Hollywood Demons released. The episode is titled Dark Side of the Power Rangers. And of course, when I say recently gained some attention, I mean over a month and a half ago. While it mainly focused on the behind-the-scenes circumstances, as well as some deaths of actors who have worked on the show, including Thuy Trang and Jason David Frank, it brought up one somewhat disconnected point.
My name is Walter John.
He's black. Guys, take it.
Now, we won't be talking much about the documentary itself. Instead, we'll be springboarding into a topic that I've kind of held off on until now. Especially seeing how it gained enough attention to be turned into a Weekend Update joke on Saturday Night Live.
A writer for the 1990 show Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is now saying that it was a mistake to cast a black actor as the Black Ranger and an Asian actor as the Yellow Ranger. And he really regrets having a Mexican actor play the Lazy Ranger.
Perhaps it's time we dig deep into Power Rangers, race, and diversity.
You should be much more careful when you're talking about the sensitive subject of race.
Okay, we all know this is going to be a loaded subject, so I'm going to need to make some things clear. This video has no real agenda. I'll be looking at the topic of race in Power Rangers, and that's it. I try to keep my videos as apolitical as possible, so if you're here to say Power Rangers is woke or DEI, then you're in the wrong place. That doesn't mean I won't add my own opinion and commentate. I will. I just don't have and will not have anything politically aligned here. Feel free to disagree and have your own opinions. All I ask is that you watch through and give my thoughts a chance. Then feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Just, please behave. Tall order for this one, I know. With that out of the way, we have to acknowledge that racial diversity has been part of Power Rangers since the start. When the show was brought over from Japan by Haim Saban, one of his prominent ideas was to have each Ranger look different. Being that this was the plan from the beginning, the diversity in Power Rangers feels less like an afterthought and more intentional, especially when you consider it came out in the early 90s. As this representation was part of the show's DNA from the start, it's strange that they do something like casting Walter Jones as Zach Taylor, the Black Ranger, and Thuy Trang as Trini Kwan, the Yellow Ranger, but it was all a mistake and coincidence. Former Power Rangers writer Tony Oliver says so, and he was the one who brought it up on the HBO documentary.
And so it was my assistant who pointed it out in a meeting one day. It was so a mistake. It was such a mistake. But Thuy was not our original Yellow Ranger.
He's referring to Audrey Dubois, the original actress casted to play Yellow Ranger Trini. Unlike Thuy Trang, she was Latina.
I just love Latinas, Sonic. What? Adios, amigo.
Audrey Dubois chose to leave after filming the pilot and was subsequently replaced. Walter Jones even rejects the notion that it was racist, saying in an article that it dismisses the impact it had on people. And I'd have to agree, Walter Jones is one of the first, if not the first, black superhero on TV. And I'm being a little loose with this because the internet says Carl Lumbly played the first black superhero on TV in Mantis, which premiered in 1994. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers premiered the year prior in 1993. Walter Jones has a point. His distinction as the first black superhero and its impact is already being dismissed when there's a clear first here. Unfortunately, people don't really seem to care about getting their facts straight. Not to take away from Carl Lumbly's impact, he's still the first black superhero lead, but it's the same lack of attention that leads us to peddling the same tired topics without proper context. Ironic, since his character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Isaiah Bradley, has his whole life story as a super soldier covered up or forgotten about, and honor given to Captain America instead while he sat in jail. Setting the record straight doesn't take away from his impact. This forms the basis of why I started writing this video. The question isn't as simple as, is Power Rangers racist? but has Power Rangers kept up with the diversity they've built since the beginning? As the years went on, casts began to rotate every season. We got some firsts, like the first Black-Red Ranger, first Black-Pink Ranger, first Autistic Ranger in the 2017 movie, first Gay Ranger in the movie, and again in the show. But one thing that seems to evade casting in seasons following Mighty Morphin is a Black actor playing the Black Ranger and an Asian actor playing the Yellow Ranger. It seems as if they've learned from the original casting decision way back when, huh? Well, not really. Them not casting certain races to play certain Rangers in future seasons isn't true. Two examples being Will from Operation Overdrive and most recently Min in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always. Though it's worth mentioning that her character is supposed to be Trini's daughter from the original. Now if I'm being real here, is this casting restriction really something we should be keeping up with? Yeah, I know the show's over, but they're definitely not making the same choices again in whatever future Power Rangers project that comes. They even swapped the races of some characters in the 2017 movie, with Ludi Lin and Becky G playing two different versions of Black and Yellow Rangers Zack and Trini. I just don't think the color of one's suit should be determined by the color of one's skin, you know? If I were ever cast as a Power Ranger, fat chance if that ever happens by the way, am I not allowed to be yellow because I'm Asian? That seems pretty sad to me. I'd like to think we've progressed as a society to not have to associate suit color with race. As a kid, I had an obsession with being the Red Ranger after my hero, the GOAT Carter Grayson. Go watch my buddy Joe's video on him. Later, I switched to want to be the Blue Ranger so bad because I watched Wild Force and thought Cole's weapon was lame and that Max's Blue Shark fighting fins were cooler. What a weapon name. As a character, Max found it annoying when people would write him off as a kid, and at the same time, I was going through something similar. I wanted to be perceived as older and more mature, or at least as mature as an 8-year-old watching pirated DVDs his aunt got him for his birthday could be. And thanks to Rangers like Ninja Storm's Dustin and Mystic Force's Chip, I went through a Yellow Ranger phase of my own. But I wasn't as outspoken, mainly because liking Power Rangers at age 10 wasn't cool at my school. I kept it locked in, man. But also because Yellow Rangers up until that point were traditionally female. Oh, how little did I know about Sentai, Cries and Tidius. I can't speak for everyone, and this might sound weird, but I've never really been the type to see myself in other people my race. At least I latch on more to character traits like Max's desire to be seen as more mature and Carter's racism. That's not to say I can't relate to Asian characters. Cam from Ninja Storm had some great moments I connected with. It's just not much of a personal priority for me over character writing. For me, it's not about seeing someone who looks like me, but it's about the possibility that anyone can be any ranger. But if we're limiting what kind of ranger someone can be, whether that be black, Asian, robot, girl, girl boss, dog, and normal, hey, wait a minute, then it's not really diverse. More of preventative diversity, in case someone points and calls the show something it's not, and these decisions shouldn't be made for that reason. I've mentioned we've gone through many firsts in the franchise, from TJ being the first Black Red Ranger to Amelia being the first, no second, no third, no first full-time Red Ranger, in Cosmic Fury, which was half a season long. Girl, you were on part-time hours. But one we've never gotten is an Asian Red Ranger. Like I've said, for me, I vibe more with characters for who they are and how they act, rather than what they look like. Having an Asian Red Ranger goes back to my point about anyone being anything. For a show steeped in the pop culture heritage passed down from Super Sentai in Japan, it's strange there hasn't been a Red Ranger character of Asian descent played by an Asian actor. And before anyone angrily comments, yes, I know about Peter Sudarso in Hyperforce, the online Power Rangers RPG that was streamed on Twitch in 2017. I personally think of Hyperforce as canon, unlike some people, but it's not really about that show as opposed to the main show on TV. While side projects like Hyperforce or the comics have done some phenomenal work, some of the best in recent years, Power Rangers is best known for its presence on television. So why is it that there hasn't been an Asian Red Ranger on TV? Oh, and before you say Brody, the Red Ninja Steel Ranger, is South Asian because his actor, William Schufelt, is, I don't think he counts. His character's full name is Brody Romero. Not only that, he was asked by production in 2017 to play Latino. 2017 is way too modern a time for anyone to be asking that of an actor. And it's played straight here for an audience of children. It's not even played as part of a joke or commentary like Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder. The reason I don't count it is that, while a character does not need to exhibit traits or have dialogue indicative of their actor's race, there can't be a conscious decision to swap them into another race to fill in a quota. You could say it counts on a technicality, sure, but the intention alone disqualifies the diversity in the casting. Which brings us to our most egregious example of this. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 18th head of the Shiba clan and leader of the Samurai Rangers, Jaden Shiba.
I got my glorious king, my head of the table, my MLK, my savior, Jaden Shiba.
Jaden is an interesting character, not because he's actually interesting or good, but because he's essentially a carbon copy of his Japanese counterpart, but he's white. Okay, genuinely no hate to Alex Hartman, or really any actors I've mentioned or am gonna mention. I don't believe in retroactively punishing anyone, nor does anyone deserve any sort of flack for being cast in a role. This is all up to the director, casting director, and producers. Samurai as a season leaned heavily into its Japanese theming, and by leaned heavily, I mean they'd selectively keep stuff and choose not to adapt others, to the point where it didn't make sense. Jaden is one of those cases. They cared enough to keep Samurai's story beat for beat the same as in Japan, but the one thing they didn't keep is the Red Ranger's race. Sure makes it awkward when there's moments lifted from the Japanese version that have to do with ancestry. Now the 4 other Samurai Rangers aren't as big a deal. You can write around that. Red matters though because it's an intrinsic part of his character, being the newest generation in a long line of samurai warriors. It's strange seeing a completely white guy touted to be part of such a legacy, his late father also being a white guy, and I highly doubt they're mixed. Shout out to the Wasians out there. It's the carelessness in the casting department that gets to me. While Power Rangers is known for typically hiring unknowns, Samurai's cast is made up primarily of models, and that's not to say models can't act, but they prioritize looks over ability. Ironic because one guy doesn't even look the part. This extends to another character, Jaden's sister and the true head of the Shiba clan, Lauren Shiba. She is also white.
Why are you white?
I don't think people have as many complaints about her because she's the best written character in a low bar of a season, and she's notably the first, no second, female Red Ranger. But that doesn't mean those complaints don't apply. They could have at least changed her last name from a clearly Japanese one, because if they did that, it would make the twist of Jaden not being the true head of the Shiba clan very funny, his cover being a poorly thought out caricature of an Asian person. Imagine Lauren pulling up and saying, "Hey dude, your name isn't Jaden Shiba, it's Jaden Johnson. Don't pull a Rachel Dolezal, not cool man, that's embarrassing. You're my brother, that reflects bad on me. I mean, what's dad gonna think? Oh, right. He's dead." And they're not the only ones in the cast. Gold Ranger Antonio Garcia is played by actor Steven Skyler, who's of Thai descent. Of all things they could do, they cast a Thai guy and make him say a bunch of Spanish quips like "Fantastico" and "Excelente," really trying to tap into the Dora the Explorer crowd now that they were on Nickelodeon, huh?
Fuck, I cannot stand this puta.
Then there's Pink Ranger Mia Watanabe, played by Erica Fong, who is Chinese Korean.
I'd say more, but I owe Dai some payback.
This is actually a general problem I have with Hollywood in that they cast Asians interchangeably with each other. But not only has Power Rangers fallen into that, this isn't their first time. In 2003, we got Cam Watanabe from Power Rangers Ninja Storm, played by Jason Chan, who's Malaysian. They even reused Cam's last name for Mia because I guess coming up with a new one almost a decade later is too much to deal with. As far as I know, no relation. Now, I don't think it's a big deal in some aspects, especially when you look at how white actors can play British, Italian, French, or Russian, among others.
I would be Irish or Russian or French, but no, Chinese is a bit of a stretch.
But I think it matters in the case of Power Rangers because diversity has always been an intrinsic part of its formula. And also, as an Asian, I can say that there are differences in the physical features between, say, Chinese, Korean, and Japanese people, but the beauty standards in America of specifically Asian people tend to lump them all into one category. Not that distinguishing them necessarily solves the issue, as what Americans see as attractive is very different from what people in Asia see as attractive. It's the reason Marvel's Shang-Chi didn't do well in China, as much as I like Simu Liu, who himself is Chinese and Canadian. Unfortunately, he doesn't exhibit the characteristics of male heartthrobs found in Asia. And never mind the other Asian ethnic groups outside the big three. We've had quite a few actors of Filipino descent on the show, but they're either played ethnically ambiguous or of Latin descent. Which I guess sort of works. Thanks a lot, Spain. In Power Rangers SPD, they cast Monica May, who's Italian, as Elizabeth Z. Delgado, who's supposed to be Latina. They just need to hire Shadow the Hedgehog as casting director for Power Rangers.
I just love Latinas, Sonic.
In the 3rd season of Mighty Morphin's run and into Zeo, Tommy's written as Native American, despite Jason David Frank not being Native American. Even as recent as Power Rangers Dino and Cosmic Fury, Izzy Garcia, the first gay ranger on the show, is played by Tessa Rao, who is of South Asian descent. You win some and you lose some, I guess.
Where the fuck are the Latinas, Knuckles?
Even in its early days, Power Rangers never really shied away from incorporating characters' cultural heritage into the show. Now, not every character was a walking representative of their respective ethnic group, but there were a few moments where it got a mention or even became a plot point. In her debut episode, Cassie Chan, played by Patricia Jolly, is asked where she learned to fight. She jokingly says,
My ancestors invented it.
martial arts is a commonality between different Asian cultures, but pay attention to Cassie's last name, Chan. It's a Chinese last name. Patricia Jolly is Korean American. Cassie's ethnicity is never elaborated on, but the discrepancy can be gathered from her name alone. Mighty Morphin occasionally worked in the Rangers' own background as part of the plot, like Adam's family lantern being turned into a monster. And nowhere else was it a bigger plot point than at the end of Season 3 and into the Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers miniseries. The Rangers, turned into children, have to gather the Zeo crystals by visiting areas in the past tied to their cultural heritages. I mean, all things considered, for the 90s, this was pretty impressive. Nowadays, not so much. There would be a mix of alright and not so alright moments over the years, like the aforementioned Native American side to Tommy needing to go on a vision quest. Some might think that this kind of thing has no place on children's TV, and to that I say, sort of. If done tastefully and with respect, it has every right to be part of the show. It's not alienating anyone, it's just another way to learn about other cultures. Other children's media does this as well. Proud Family, at least its original run, I haven't seen the revival, and That's So Raven, they've both dealt with race-related issues in a tasteful manner. Ironic, as both shows are Disney productions, and the Disney-produced seasons of Power Rangers never really got too into the weeds, except for Flynn being Scottish.
So what are you supposed to be?
I'm Scottish!
Nickelodeon had their moments too, doing a whole Passover special for Rugrats. The SpongeBob musical, starring the guy who left his wife and child for Ariana Grande, had a really good allegory for racism and prejudice. Sandy, being a land mammal, is distrusted by the other fish when a volcano threatens to destroy Bikini Bottom. She has the solution, but no one is on board. The fish just don't trust squirrels. The racial parallel being really obvious with Sandy being played by, well, a black woman, and surprisingly one of the most positive depictions of racial divide in recent memory. I'm also a shill for the SpongeBob musical, so go watch it if you've got the chance. Power Rangers also has a really good episode depicting racism without outright calling it racism. Time Force was the first season where the Monster of the Week characters weren't just monsters, but people, except severely mutated and forced to live with themselves in a world full of babies born with perfect DNA. Some of these characters are outcasts from society, others are able to live normally and work the same opportunities as non-mutants. The ones seen in the show aren't necessarily criminals, but ones who have strayed off the path. In the episode Trip Takes a Stand, one of them, encountered by the Rangers, is the appropriately named Not-a-Con, who is not a con. He was arrested in the future for petty theft, stealing vegetables to keep himself from starving on the street. People were frightened by Not-a-Con's appearance, so it was difficult for him to survive being homeless, preferring to be cryogenically frozen so he wouldn't have to worry about going hungry and starving.
No one would feed me because of the way I look. I had to steal or I would have starved.
Green Ranger Trip helps him out after the mutant criminal leader, Rancic, unsuccessfully releases him to attack the city. Trip notices Not-a-Con is uninterested in causing trouble and voluntarily wants to be taken in, but Quantum Ranger Eric Myers, through his limited exposure, considers all mutants to be criminals, going so far as to point to Not-a-Con's looks.
Not violent? Don't make me laugh. They're all violent. They're not even human. Look at him, he's a freak!
It's a strong episode that's way ahead of its time. Time. It's funny because they're Time Force, they're time travelers. It's reminiscent of other media, namely X-Men. Not only does it involve mutants as well, a different kind to what Power Rangers calls mutants, the struggles depicted in the comics, shows, and films were always a parallel or a stand-in for race, LGBTQ issues, and whatever group was relevant at the time. There is nothing wrong with depicting these kinds of struggles and issues, but it can't be for cheap reasons. These days, diversity in media is almost played as a marketing gimmick. As an ethnic minority myself, I don't feel excited at all when I see poor effort and low-quality insertions of different races. Instead, I prefer either positive or thought-provoking stories that can respect these heavy topics, but it's also okay to not do it at all and leave it alone if the alternative isn't genuine. don't know how to handle it, then don't do it. That's fine. Simply including diverse characters does not excuse you from doing a bad job. And the amount of poor attempts to diversify media has left many like me jaded. I almost roll my eyes seeing certain characters, not because I find it contributing to some woke agenda, but because I don't trust that characters will be handled well. There's a lot more to this topic that I've gone over in past videos. Check out my video on the time a former channel awesome creator called a fan favorite Power Rangers season racist. And also check out another video of mine that overall looks at the negativity that happened leading up to Cosmic Fury, which includes discussion on the unfortunate pattern of Black Red Rangers being demoted or stepping down. Is Power Rangers a perfect show? By all means, no. So to wrap up this video, I'm actually going off script and ad-libbing here for a bit. Every point that I've made so far isn't necessarily set in stone. Now that doesn't mean I'm not confident or feel strongly about some of the opinions that I've made, but it comes from a place of wanting to grow and see the show, or lack of a show, the franchise I mean, grow into something bigger and better. You just have to be as good faith as possible and allow discussion. Otherwise, no one is learning. I encourage it to be a two-way street with all the opinions that everyone's brought to the table. I don't know how to end this, so I guess I'll just say, racism is bad. Yeah.